So I got the recording going. So thank you, Lorna and Zandra, for coming to our session today. And I got you here so that I could hear about your company and your build and what you do. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, Lorna, why don't you introduce yourself first and then I'll go and start the presentation.
Okay, my name is Lorna and I'm the business development manager for Born Again Properties, which is a property management company. There's also Born Again Construction, as well as Born Again Developments. We're established in Houston, Texas, but we operate nationwide as well as parts of Mexico, Canada, and expanding the Caribbean, as well as expanding into Europe.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm Zandra Jones. I didn't know if you wanted me to join on video, but I'll stay this way. And I am the CEO of the Born Again Development Company. And we have multiple companies under our team. We have a construction company, Born Again Construction, Roofing and Solar. Born Again Developments is our development company where we develop land projects. And then we have our property management company, Born Again Rentals, where we manage short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and we manage commercial properties. So we work very closely with investors, individuals who are looking to have projects completed, as Lorna mentioned, all over the US and Mexico. We've done some developments. We have a development under construction there now. We finished our first one in Mexico, April 2022, going really well. I love it there. And as she mentioned, Europe is next. So we are doing some pretty significant analytics and then just looking to expand from there. So I definitely would like this to be interactive, Vonda. So if you have anything you want me to touch on specifically, I can do that. I can share my screen here and go through some different slides so you can see what we've done and who we are. I'll just touch a little bit about, I kind of mentioned who I am, and Dean, my spouse and partner. And basically we've owned these companies for many years. Born Again Rentals was started in 2014. Okay. We diversified into real estate in 2014, started the company Rentals in 2016 and the construction company. And they really formed out of necessity. And then we've been developing since 2018. We do have a full turnkey system, which is something that we have found has been able to help our investors and our development projects. And each project really immensely, because if it's going to be a rental property, we're able to cut the costs on the management side of it and offer our construction, for repairs or anything that's needed in that regard. Same thing with our developments. We're able to, because we have the construction company, get materials and supplies at cost and have net accounts because of the volume of construction we do. So we are distributors for a lot of different kinds of materials and supplies, like metal buildings. I was telling Lorna, the earthen block, and being able to get, our concrete, our lumber, and all of our finishes material at cost is a huge savings for our developments, our constructions, and obviously goes passed down to any clients that we work with, whether it's an investor looking to develop, multi-million-dollar development, or, an individual end user. We pass those savings along. And then the same thing on the property management side. We have been developing, we've completed over 89 projects. I need to update this because we're in the 90s now, and we've raised millions and millions of dollars for our projects. And that's something that we've been able to do because of our track record. So one of my lenders has been loaning on the majority of the last 2 years, and they're funding a commercial construction project that we're doing right now, and one that we're breaking ground on hopefully by the end of this month. We're waiting on some architecturals and engineering plans to come back. And I did put him as part of our team here. And I do need to add Lorna on here, so forgive me, she's not on here, but we have our marketing team, our property management team, acquisitions, and then this is the lender who has been doing a lot of our lending. We have multiple lenders depending on where the development's being completed, but I just wanted to give an overview of our team and who we are and what our experience is. But I think for the purposes of this your development, I want to talk about what we can offer as far as the development services, right? Because that's the majority of what you're going to need from us at this point.
Yes, and I like that glamour shot you had up there.
Oh, well, thank you. So just getting right into it, I talked about our development, and one of the things that we really are very, very much wanting to make sure that we are doing on our developments is creating a positive impact. So the development is something that we started doing because we were able to find land and either remove what was there and improve on that land for not only our portfolio, but also for the community, because one of the things that we're very much passionate about is making a positive impact, not only on that area, but on really on the world. We are a Christian company. Our goal is to be able to positively impact people, not just in our local community, but as many people as we can in as many ways as we can. And so when we're developing, we do specific things in our developments in terms of making sure that the energy efficiency is there. Obviously, the code compliance, the FEMA regulation, the design is very important to us. We want people to be able to see our developments and know that this is a born again development. And we want to go and be above and beyond on all of our developments. We're doing a development right now that the type of finish that we're putting on the exterior is one that is one that has a lot of problems. It's stucco. So this is a development that we didn't have to get a actual report done, and we didn't have to provide it's like a building, not code, but a building report for it. And we went through and we had one created. It was several $1,000s, and we are having multiple inspections done on that in addition to the engineering and city inspections, because we want to make sure that it's applied correctly, because I'm sure you've heard of all the nightmares with stucco. And that's something that's costing us over $7,500 extra to do, but we're doing that as an additional due diligence because we want to make sure that that construction success over the next 50 years is going to be done properly. And so that's the type of due diligence and extra mile we go for our projects. We put in making them energy efficient, whether we're holding them or not, because we want it to be something that's going to benefit the environment for the long term. The types of property we develop: multifamily, commercial and industrial, and single family. So we've done, all the way from just one individual home to multifamily apartments. And of course, we do have some commercial and industrial. The commercial and industrial are the least of our development experience. We have done them. We do know the compliance and the code and the ADA, but our most experience is within multifamily and single family residential. Design and development pre-construction services. So this is something that is incredibly important when you're looking at any project. And just for my understanding, Vonda, can you tell me a little bit about how far along you've come on the pre-construction aspect of your project?
Well, we don't have any land yet, so we're just in the vision stage of what we want on this property. And we know that we want to do it in Fort Bend County.
Okay.
And we're looking at between 10 and 20 acres.
10 and 20 acres. That is a question that I had. So Fort Bend County, 10 and 20 acres. And as far as your start to find land, what is the budget that you are starting with?
Well, we looked at land that's available. I think the most inexpensive was 260 or 360, and it went up, of course, to $5 million after that. So, so we're looking at about 500, 600,000.
5 to 600. Okay. And then you said Fort Bend. So have you talked with have you had any communication with the county or the city? What city are you narrowing it down to?
So that's actually what we're doing tomorrow. I do believe, Paula, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were planning on meeting with some of them tomorrow morning at breakfast.
Really?
Isn't that right? Wednesday morning at 7 a.m.? Isn't that what you and Lee said last week?
Oh, you mean at the Exchange Club? Yeah, you're meeting Lee at 7 a.m. You're meeting him at the Exchange Club of Sugarland?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I thought you was referring to, the guy we spoke with last week.
No.
The trucker, not that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, the meeting's at 7 a.m. At least he didn't send you the invite. We'll talk about that when they're done.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is no, but we were looking at like Rosenberg, Kendleton, something down 59, going south.
Okay.
Kendleton is probably the furthest out because I think after Kendleton, you get into Wharton County.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, it's Fulshire, Fort Bend, right, Ben?
Fulshire is Fort Bend, Needville, yes,
Yeah.
around
So
that
all of those areas, yeah.
Okay. So then once you have a lot identified prior to closing, that's when all of the pre-construction, pre-development is going to be very much needed, right? So do you have a handle on that?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Okay, so when we're looking at developing, our clients come in multiple different phases or already completed stages, I would say. So some of them, like you, have a vision. Okay, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm looking to accomplish with this development. And then we talk about that vision, of course, and the location, the budget. And then based on that, once you start looking for the land, before you actually can close on it, there's months and hours and thousands of dollars spent before you can close on that to ensure that that location is going to be able to accomplish those goals, right? So for example, there was a resort that we were doing all the due diligence pre-development on, and the lot that was under contract, we had multiple pre-development meetings with the city that it was in, and everything was green lighted and everything was a yes. And once we got down into the weeds with engineering and TECQ, basically it was not going to be able to be developed. And so typically when we go into development, we spend the time and the due diligence on making sure and getting in writing that what you're looking to build can be built, and also within the contingencies on the offers on the land, they're in there so that you're protecting yourself and you're setting yourself up for success, because you've gone through, I'm sure, in your past, and you've seen development that never were completed, or that, and even building had started, right?
Right.
And that's what we want to avoid. We don't want to get to a point that it can't be done, right? So there's so much time and energy and resources that go into that pre-development. And we always suggest doing that on the front end before closing, because you don't want to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a piece of property that you can't develop. So that's what when you're looking at different cities and you have, let's say you've narrowed down your lot to maybe 3 or 5 of your favorite, then you'd go to the city and you'd look at what their requirements, there are the restrictions, the zoning on the land, all of that. So you'd have a pre-development meeting. And of course, we can help you, and we would do all of that, as much or as little. And depending on what you need from us, that's what we would set basically the phase around, right? So usually, in that scenario, if you say, well, I'm going to go through and I'm going to acquire the lot, I would bring us in prior to that. But sometimes we come in after the lot's already been acquired, and then we start the groundwork from there. So the pre-development is really we can assist in that, whether you own the lot already or whether you are trying to ensure that what you are looking to do on that lot is going to be possible. And that's us doing all of basically the project administration, assisting with the jurisdictional reviews and the other mitigation issues, the pre-development meetings with the city, the counties, and that's going to usually be a minimum of 3. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 15. It depends on the scope and the size of that project, and coordinating the design team, the document review, the building code review. So each city and county has what they're going to require us to do on that piece of property to develop it. And then of course, the scheduling of the project, and that comes, down the road. And then determining and establishing a realistic budget, because that's something that a lot of investors don't have a really good handle on when they come to us with their vision and their ideas on developing a project. And sometimes, once we put that together, then we start out in phases, and phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and we base those phases on the level of importance. And that includes the non-design, the construction related costs, all of those things, the engineering and architectural review and evaluation, and of course the permitting. So land development, depending on the type of land you buy, those costs will all vary. So without having, a lot or two identified, one might be cleared and have access to city services. One might not be cleared and need septic and well. And I know you wanting to be a self-sustaining community. So we have to talk about all of those things, and then those soft costs also, with the engineering and the architecturals, if they don't, depending on what the city or the county requires, maybe we just need to get construction plans, and we don't have to get, a stamped or architect to be involved. We can use an architectural designer to do the framing plan and the foundation plan. So that's basically what we would sit down and work with you on, create the checklist, and then do a lot of that due diligence And then our clients sometimes want to be involved in those meetings, and sometimes they don't want to be involved in those meetings. Totally up to you on how you'd want to, what your level of involvement would be. But we assign within our company a project manager, and we use a project management software that we give our clients access to, with all the documents, all the checklists, everything's time stamped. So checklists and everything can be seen in real time. And then all of the meetings are documented and recorded and put in here as far as the notes, so we can keep track of everything. And then, you know, that's all your package to keep for the future.
I like that. So to answer your question is, no, we don't have all those things in place. And that's kind of why we're interviewing companies to see what they have to help us out with that. So what we were going to do was, once we find some property, put in a letter of intent to the seller, and then try to raise some funds to purchase it. And during that period is when, you know, we can check the soil and make sure we can do all these things that we want to do on the property.
Okay. So when you're making your offer and your LOI, and you're going to do some of that due diligence prior to closing, is what your thoughts are?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Okay, good. What type of time frame on closing are you looking to submit your offer with?
We'll probably do 3 months.
90 days, okay. So on developments, usually that time frame is 90 days to 6 months. And what I always recommend our clients to do is to have in your offer your contingencies based upon your vision, right? So sometimes investors listen, sometimes they don't, or our clients, I would say. But to save you the most amount of money and also protect you legally, you would want to have those contingencies on your offer on the front end, because it's a lot easier going in, having that in there when you make a strong offer, than going and asking for those to be changed or amended after your offer is already under the, your due diligence time frame. Does that make sense?
It does.
And that's something that is, I would say a pro tip or whatever, but that's something I would definitely do when you start making your offers. It'll make things so much easier for you, because you would get your earnest money back if, let's say, you can't develop it and you've gone past your contingency time frame. So you would want to write all of that into your offer. And most people who are selling land are reasonable to the point where they understand that, and they realize that that's going to be developed, and that you're doing that to protect yourself. And in the same regard, offering them a reasonable amount of earnest money and a reasonable amount of contingency money, right? Because it makes it worth their time as well.
Right. So you said your company, on one of the previous screens, you said your company does help with fundraising?
So we have raised funds, yes. We, for our projects, and we do have, a huge amount of investors that we present our projects to. For a property or a project that we're involved in, I mean, we could assist with that, if that's something, that you wanted us to assist with as well.
Okay.
All right, so any questions on the pre-construction, pre-development, or anything here?
Well, I have a question regarding your involvement with the fundraising aspect of it all. In what manner do you all assist with that, and what type of fundraising do you all do, or whoever is involved?
So we have been developing our own projects since 2018, and we've been acquiring real estate since 2014. So our fundraising has been for our projects and our acquisitions. We have lots and lots of lending relationships. So I have relationships with lenders like Veritex Bank, Allegiance Bank, that have loaned us millions of dollars for our projects. They look at our, our resume. So we have a very lengthy resume that shows all of the projects we've completed, how much we spent on the projects. I mean, very detailed history, right? So they go and they underwrite them. They make sure that we were on the deed, that we completed the project, that it was successful. They look at the closing documents. So we have all of that already. We have our financial statement, which shows, everything on there. So that's how we've been doing this so long that we have, lender relationships all over. With fundraising, when we're looking at acquiring funds for our projects, we have a large database of investors who want to be involved in our projects. And so we present a presentation, and we run those pro formas for the investments that we're looking for. So I can show you one that we were looking for funding on, that we're about to break ground on this month. We're hoping by the end of the month, if not early next month. And it's a development, and we basically run the pro forma. It's the same thing we submit to our lender, which shows what the equity will be, which shows what the projected income is going to be over the next 30 years. And it breaks down everything in a very detailed format. And we've been running pro formas, for years and years and years. And so that's where our fundraising comes in.
A question on that would, sorry. So are you running it as your project, or you're running it as another person's project? So if you're running it as your project, do you assume the debt and loan until construction is completed before you hand it over?
So we, as one of our entities, right, Born Again Developments is a development service that we can manage the pre-construction, the construction process, the full development process from turnkey, from start to finish. And we can do portions of that in between. We have not been asked to fundraise on any of the developments we've done for our clients, but we have fundraised for our projects. And when we do fundraise for our projects and we bring on capital investors similar to a syndication, then our company acquires the loan, our company gets underwritten, we are the guarantors, and it's all based on our experience, and it's all based on our past performance. When we go and we do a construction, let's say it's our construction company that does the construction for the development, because sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we use another construction company because we don't have the bandwidth to complete a project. For example, if I need to bring on another, a construction company, we're handling the development of it, and we're overseeing the construction, and we're project managing it. But if we are the construction company, then usually the lender wants us to sign a no work started. They underwrite us, they look at our past performance, and basically we're involved in that manner. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. And when you do that, what are your average rates or your commission on that?
When we do what?
When you take it upon yourselves, where you're the one taking the loan. So it's basically your project, and you're doing it so you're basically doing it to sell it off or hand it over. So what is your...
In other words, you're putting
rate?
your reputation on the line to assist someone else that is just basically starting up. So what is your fee based on that?
So we have not done that before. all of the development services we've done we have been the developer and the project manager. They've had their own funds. We haven't had to, been asked to raise funds for them or take on the project for ourselves. So I don't really have a fee because we've never done that before.
Okay, well, what in
Thanks.
what aspect are you able to help a startup organization such as what we are trying to do that are in just startup phases? To what degree are you presenting to help, and in what aspect, and what is there a cost that would be translated in whatever it is that you're able to do?
So if you're looking at us coming on as a primary investor, and basically where the lender would loan based on our experience and we would be the guarantor, is that what you're?
Well, what I hear you saying is that every project you've all done is you've done them for yourselves.
Right.
So with
not every project, so we have three companies. We have our development company, construction company, and property management. The projects that we have done for ourselves, those are the funds, those are the projects that we have fundraised for. The developments we've done for our clients, or let's say our investors, right? So an investor comes with their vision and wants us to develop this for them. They have fundraised their own and just paid us, our development, our project management fees.
Okay, and what are those?
So it's very much based on the level of service and what you want us to do with the project.
Okay.
So we do several different things, and we have three different packages. So we have our pre-construction, and then we have our construction management, and then we have our project management. And I do have
Please leave your message for 8323.
Oh, I do have this flyer that I could send, which breaks everything down, and that's kind of what I'm going through here. But there's a lot of information that I don't have, that I can't really provide a cost because I don't know, how you want us involved and what we will be doing, on the project. But we do for our clients, like I put in here on the pre-construction, establishing the overall development budget, the construction related costs, all of that. And we can help with those evaluations. We have been asked to do that, and we have been able to do that. Here's a pro forma example of what we produce and provide to the lenders. So when we're running our analytics, we can provide these to you for you to submit to your lender, which will show, basically this was a lot that was acquired for $430,000. This was the cost to construct it. This is the amount financed. This is the amount of capital that had to be raised to do it. And then we put in all the costs, right? So we always recommend, if you want us to help you with the pro forma, we always recommend a minimum of 5% cost overrun, and then you put in all your numbers. So in that area, appreciation averages, income averages, and then you look at what your cost per square foot breakdown is, what your income per square foot breakdown is, and we can provide and basically give this to you so that you can present it to your lender. And then you see all of your numbers here. And this is what most lenders are going to want. This was done as a hold. So expenses and then cash flow and income over, each year. This was a hold. So we can help produce those for you. I just actually did one here today with a client. Let me pull that up so we can see it. One sec.
And then when you get through with that, I want to see your slide about why Texas, because that looked pretty interesting.
Okay, sure. So this was 17
So
properties.
sorry, are you going to share this deck with us?
Which deck would you like?
Your presentation, like the presentation, the deck you're presenting.
Sure.
Thank you.
No
I'm
problem.
recording this as well.
Okay, so this is one that I analyzed for somebody today. It's in Florida. It's a 17 property new construction. So they're not looking at cash flow. They're looking at a 5-year return on this. So purchase cost, amount finance, this is the amount of capital they're needing to raise. I did a estimated interest rate based on a portfolio loan. Total cash needed based on, these are already built. So this is a hold. So I analyzed the cost today cash flow based on the rental rate. So we pulled up what the rental rate averages are. Again, they're wanting to just break even because they're looking at over the next 5 years what their cash out is going to be. So this is their buy and hold projection over the next 5 years. And then this is going to be their return on equity over the next 5 years. And that's what they're looking at. This is their exit strategy, is to hold it and sell it in 5 years. So basically we looked at, okay, if you held it for a year, if you held it for 3, and then if you held it for 5, how those numbers appreciate. So I looked up what the average appreciation is, and it was 5 years in that area. The average appreciation of rental income, and then these are brand new construction. So we factored in the taxes, the insurance, basically because they're gonna long-term hold them. So these numbers made sense to them. This is what they're going to want to accomplish. And then this is a type of reporting that we can produce for you to provide to your lender, or if you want us to do some lender introductions. I'm actually connecting them with a portfolio lender that's going to work with them on this development project. So that's a way that we can, come in and help you as well. And then, if you want us involved, then we could potentially talk about other ways of involvement, and being, a partner on there or a guarantor in some way.
Have you done any projects in Fort Bend County yet?
I believe we've done Fort Bend County. That's like Katy, West. That's more west, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure we have.
Part of Katy is Fort Bend, part of it's Harris, and part is Waller. So depending on what part of Katy it was.
Right. So then moving forward, construction management. So we can help with bidding out on the construction documents to the suppliers and the subcontractors. So that's, getting once we have the plans, we can take those plans and get the takeoffs. So looking at framing takeoffs, looking at window and door takeoffs, and basically getting, the number of studs that are needed, the number of basically everything. I just got a takeoff this morning. And so once we get our takeoffs and we can, put that's one of the soft costs that you're going to have. Then we send it out to bid. So, and first we look at people we have relationships with, which are, a huge number that we have accounts with. And then we go through and we get all the cost breakdown for all the suppliers. We put them all on a spreadsheet. So we see what the delivery cost is, what the material costs are, make sure we're comparing apples to apples. And then that's how we would help with getting your construction costs. We usually recommend doing a estimated cost up front. So we use an estimating service to provide the takeoff and the construction estimates, so that when we go for the finalized construction budgeting, we have that as a guide. And they're usually very accurate. And we like to do that because it gives us a really good solid number on the front end. And then getting our teams together, our crews together, the subcontractors, you know, the concrete, the framing, the truss company, obviously the finish out, depending on what the material is going to be, whether it's going to be, you know, metal barndominium, whether it's going to be an earthen block, whatever it's going to be, negotiating with all those subs. And then making sure that the due diligence is done on those subcontractors. You know, at the end of the day, it's not about the lowest price, it's about quality as well as price, right? So there has to be a very good balance there. So we make sure we underwrite the subs if we've never used them before. We put in all of the, this says pre-qualified general contractors as well. And then all of the contracts for construction is a huge importance, because your contract needs to be very clear on what you're expecting from each sub, what they're going to do. Everything needs to be identified there. Inspections, delays, what the cost is if they go over, you know, even 5 days. There should be something in the contract that there's a cost that is associated with that they, you know, basically it dings them, because, you know, time is money, and your holding costs are going to cost you money. So all of those contracts have been written by our attorneys. We've used them and modified them over the years, and we want to make sure that those contracts are airtight to protect you on your development. And we can help you, you know, evaluate those bids. And at the end of the day, you make the decision, and we provide you with everything and what our recommendations are.
Okay.
Anything on that? Any questions?
Hi, this is Ron Cooper. I just came in. I apologize for being late. Vanda, just for me, again, real quick, and I love everything you're saying. I wish I had you involved with the project. 5-year things in delay when I first started 2017. Man, it's amazing just to hear the level of protections, and just based on what I've heard in the last 5 minutes. My question right now, not to derail the topic, I'm working in Texas with Vanda, but we're also doing projects in California. Are this specifically related, Vanda, to your Houston, your Texas projects?
No, she does properties all over. But what we're talking about now is Texas, but she does properties all over, even in, you said Mexico?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I just hearing the way she's covering, and the biggest problem that I've had and heard people have is when you can't hold the contractors down to performing. Yeah, there's some things that can happen, but the fact of being able to say if something is 5 days late, or that you can drill down and identify it and determine who's going to be responsible for that, because that issue of time is money. That's I've learned from experience. So I just don't want to derail it. Any other questions? But outside of that, I was wondering, because yeah, we're trying to work with you in Texas, but we've got some projects in California right now, specifically a project that I'm working on with veterans that I want to be able to find out if that's something we can talk about as well.
Oh, definitely. We can have a meeting and talk about it. So when we have our contracts with our subcontractors, our main project manager, we have the time frame that we agree on that it's going to take for them to complete that specific performance, right? So let's say it's the dirt work and the concrete. Okay, it'll take you 2 weeks, right, of of no rain to get that done. We put that in our contract, and then every day that there's a delay, there's a dollar amount that is charged to the project, to them. I'm sorry, to them, not to the project. And so it holds them accountable to that time frame. And we make sure that we keep track of that. And it's their responsibility, if there is a delay, to tell us, and then we confirm and verify that delay reasoning. So we have a project right now that we have been working on, that we've been overseeing. It's very, very near the end of completion. One of the subs has gone over the time frame, and so they've provided us with those dates that they had delays, that they couldn't work. And then, you know, we keep them very much aware. Our team is very much on top of it to say, you know, you started this date, this is where we are. And then we hold those meetings with them consistently throughout the process. You know, if this is a year development, we're going to meet with them, that sub, typically every single week that they're on the project. We have pictures taken, we get updates. We have a software that we use where they can, it is geo-targeted and time-stamped, so we get real-time updates of pictures of the project. Of course, we use that for marketing and for the overall, you know, project. But it also, we're able to see everything. And then we don't do payouts unless certain measurements or measurables have taken place. So for example, I have one of our projects just submitted a draw request for the electrical and plumbing, and you know, to cover basically. And I mean, this is a multi-family construction development, and we said, okay, no problem. You know, we have the pictures, but they didn't provide the cover inspection permit that was passed. They submitted this Thursday, so of course, our next thing is we need to see the inspections, right? Before it even goes to the lender, we do our due diligence when that draw request comes in to make sure once it's submitted that the inspector comes out and it, you know, for the lending to get paid. And turns out they did not have they didn't pass the inspection. So you don't get paid until we have an inspection passed. So things like that we make sure we do, and that we make sure that, you know, our project is protected, because let's say we had paid them out because the electric and the rough-in is all in there, it is in there, and then it doesn't pass inspection. Well, that's not going to be good for the development overall. So those are the things and the measurables we take and the measures we take to make sure that the project overall performance is number one. And having that project management is super important, because there's a lot to look at and a lot to make sure. And contractors, I mean, sad to say, will try to, you know, get away with whatever they can get away with, unfortunately.
This is true.
Okay, so then project management, you know, site inspections, team coordinating, trade coordinating, progress reports, value engineering, payment schedule approval, change order management, the CO, certificate of occupancy, and then the project close out and owner turnover. So I talked about that, the construction management and the overall project management. So those are two different things, and those are two different areas that we can assist in. They do overlap and they do go hand in hand, but we don't have to do both. We can do one or the other for any given project.
No, we're gonna probably need you for the whole thing.
So here's a little add-on to that. I got certified through Turner Construction as a project manager, basic, but it was enough for me to be dangerous, to be able to now understand how projects move and work. So if that could be something that you have your project management services, but let's say if I was a part of this investment group, would also have the ability to walk side by side with your company as a project certified manager, to be able to ask those questions that I learned through Turner Construction as to making sure things are being done right. You know, not just asking crazy questions, but in alignment with the things I've learned as a project certified manager.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
She says she has software that she could share, and that way people can see the progress and we could attend their meetings and things like that. So it seems like it's all open book.
Yeah, that's great. And I just, everything she was talking about were the things I learned through the certification program. So it's just like I got my money's worth, and definitely I think she's familiar with Turner Construction. They're nationwide as far as their services. They do these big commercial projects. So it's great. I'm loving it.
Awesome. Yeah, we use a project management software that everybody would have access to. They'd see the updates on the pictures. They'd see, you know, as we start getting each soft cost, you know, our elevation certificate, our geotechnical report, our architecturals, our engineering, all of those get uploaded so they're held in one place. And then as updates happen, as each pre-development meeting happens, as every, you know, work gets started and performed, there's a spreadsheet that's everything's tracked on, and then all of the notes as they happen and all of the meetings get uploaded and in real time and get alerted. All the progress pictures, any field report that is site inspection, permitting, everything gets updated in there, so everything is organized in that project.
Okay.
That's really everything as it relates to this project. You know, I did put some questions in here as far as the budget for the overall build, which I don't know if you have that already identified.
Total budget, we were looking at 13 million.
Okay.
I have a question with regards to your pricing. Is it per square foot? Is it what's your pricing model?
So our pricing model is based upon the overall project, because sometimes it doesn't work out in square foot. For example, there's a very small development that we are asked to be a part of, and us to do it based on square foot just didn't make sense, because there's a huge amount of things that they want us involved in. So we did not do that on square foot. We just did a flat rate. And then there's some that are huge developments with tons of square footage, and it would be too much money for it to be done by square footage. So we look at the overall project, we look at the phases. So if this is going to be done in 3 phases, and let's say we do all of the pre-development work on all 3 phases up front, and then you're just going to need us to, you know, be involved in, let's say, phase 1, the entire, you know, construction management and project management, then that would be, you know, a different cost, because maybe phase 2 is going to be, you know, somewhere down the road in 5 years, 10 years. We're not going to bill you or charge you for that, but on the front end, you want to make sure pre-development wise it can be done. So we like to look at the overall scope and the overall vision and the overall goals, and then also location is important. The piece of property is important as well. So we can just give a overall, you know, once I look at everything and we have an idea, we would phase out our costs and break down our costs based on each different area, right? So if it's pre-development, then, you know, we're going to go through and we have an estimator that looks at the time it would take for us to be involved, how many members, how many teammates are going to need to be involved in that, how many anticipated meetings are going to need to be involved in that. We look at the different counties and the areas. So it's definitely very much a custom cost that we want to be not only cost effective for any project, but we want to more than cover our costs based on the value that we bring. Because it could save any investor I mean, potentially millions of dollars to having the project properly managed.
True. So let's say if you were doing the land development, preparing the land for the actual construction. If you see on the project where you had to do just the land development, lay the pipes, trace the roads, segregate the parks and all of that, land development, and then the construction and things like that. Do you have a certain percentage discount, or just inbuilt to say, okay, if we do those different phases, this is about how much you're going to save? Instead of us coming to do the land development, then you bring somebody else to come and lay the pipe for the actual homes, to prepare the home sites and things like that.
Yes, so the land development is, the cost for the land development is very much dependent on where it's located, the access to public utilities, and what has to be done on that lot to be able to develop it. You know, developing roads is costly. How, you know, what the setback restrictions are, the easements, you know, the platting restrictions, the platting requirements, because I know you want to have this, you know, more of a compound. So are you wanting to plat it on the front end and have everything already platted for each unit or each house? So if we go through and we spend, you know, 6 months platting, then also it's going to break down to what platting restrictions there are. So there's quite a bit involved in getting, but we would do a feasibility study, because what we typically do, let's say it is a phase construction development, and we just did a feasibility study for one that was going to be, I want to say it was like 65 units. Phase 1 was going to be 20. Phase 2, I think it was going to be another 20, and then the last 15. All of the roads and all of the undergrounds, everything came in on phase 1. So of course, those numbers were not very good, because it assumed all the cost for the entire underground and road and land development. But then once phase 2 and phase 3 came in, then that's where, you know, an immense amount of profit came in. So doing the feasibility study is very, very important. And you can't do a feasibility study until you have, you know, that piece of property identified, and then the due diligence on the utilities, because we have a multifamily being built right now that the main, where the water line, so this multifamily had to have a sprinkler system and a fire alarm system, and we did a pressure test with the water company, and the pressure test was fine. But the city, then the water district with the city then required for the main to be upsized all the way to that property, which is down the road. So the main is 8 inches, and the line that is already going there is 2 inches. And they required the line that's going, that's feeding this development, to be upsized to 6 inches, because they wanted it. And basically every other development that happens after this will benefit from that upsizing. And that's not a cost that they would assist with. It's a cost they wanted the investor to pay. And so that was almost a $70,000 additional cost. And there would be no way to know that without going through the pre-development and talking with each of the utilities, and talking about what our goals are. And that's why the pre-development is super important, because even creating a budget, you know, that budget could be completely blown out once you have all of your pre-development done, because those things, you know, become very expensive. We had to have it couldn't be a plumber. It has to be, because it was a fire line for the sprinkler system. The main reason, it had to be a special license, and there's only a handful of people in Texas that have this license. They had to cut through the main road concrete and then all the way down. So the digging for that, the pouring, the asphalt, all of that had to come into consideration. Stopping traffic, we had to coordinate the traffic to be stopped to do the job. So it's a
So
lot.
in line with that, right? So a couple of questions in line with that. One, if we have our own plans,
Mhm.
do you have architects to do the topography study or assessment to see if the designs we have would work on the land we pick? Two, if we have different construction sites, can you do an assessment to figure out which construction site will be best over the other, would be more affordable than the other? And if you do that, what's your consulting fee to do that assessment, or your assessment fee?
Okay, so for the first question is, do we have architects? So we have many architects that we've worked with over the years. There's an architect that I actually have never worked with on a project who would like us to be involved as a developer once he finds this piece of property. He's already created a self-sustainable community that he showed me the plans of. And then, I mean, we have multiple projects going on right now that I'm working with many architects on. And we only bring in an architect typically when it's required. Usually we use architectural designers. I have many that I work with, one that does the majority of my projects here locally. He's phenomenal. Been working with him for many years. I like the architectural designers because it saves us thousands and thousands of dollars. They can do all of the framing and the foundation plans. We send them to the engineer that they work hand in hand with, that stamps them, reviews them, makes sure they're correct. And usually they can take a set of plans that have already been created, as long as they have the correct file. So if you have the CAD format of them, they can take that and usually modify them, and make sure that they're up to current code, because code changes regularly. So that I hope that answers that question. Yes. And then for the topographic survey, so we definitely want to get a topo done. We want to get a elevation certificate. We want to get the geotechnical report done, because that's what the engineer is going to need, and the civil engineer to know how far or how deep the piers need to go. So we've been doing those for years. And I shop around, once we start identifying the piece of property that these studies and these reports are going to be done on, then we'll shoot it out to multiple to get, who can do it in a reasonable time frame for a good price. And then, what was your last question? So you asked 3.
If you were to do an assessment prior to us purchasing the lot, so if we identify different sites and you're to do an assessment on the sites based on our plans, what's that assessment fee?
Gotcha. So we would probably, depending on how many and what exactly you wanted us to do, we could do a flat rate, or just come up with an hourly rate and say, okay, let's limit it to X amount of hours. It would be a nominal fee. It would just depend on how many properties there were that you wanted us to evaluate, and then what exactly you wanted us to produce. So if you wanted us to do, a feasibility study based on 3 phases, and then you wanted us to do a pro forma to submit to your lender, and you wanted us to, do a pre-development meeting with the city or the county, and then have maybe a pre-development meeting with the architect or the engineer or the structural or civil, that would be just an hourly rate or a flat rate we would come up with for you to make it make sense.
Thank you.
No problem. Vonda, was there any other questions you guys had for me?
I guess you will send me a proposal with your, I guess, retaining fee, so we'll know where to, how to compare this with the other quote that we got. And we just got to find our land so we can get this thing going.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
Zandra, you said you were going to share the presentation as well, right?
I can send you our developer PDF, which breaks down everything. I can send you this presentation, which is basically that, just on different slides. And I can send you a sample of a pro forma. I know, Vonda, you wanted me to touch on why Texas. Let's see, why Texas. So, I mean, obviously I live in Texas. I believe in Texas. There's so many different reasons why Texas, but when we're submitting a development project looking for capital, we do all of our, obviously, studies, right, of that area. So we did a study of why Texas, and then this one was going to be in New Braunfels, short-term rental hold. So we do all of that market research, and then we break it into why that city specifically. So we look at all the demographics, we look at, basically the growth, the GDP, vacancies, unemployment rate, housing expenses, basically the growth. We do a ton of research and we do recommend, our investors to do the same when they're submitting a packet, and when you're also, fundraising, because that's one thing that, anybody's going to want to know, especially if they're not here locally.
Right.
And
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I could send you, a sample of one as well.
So do you like you're having this meeting with us and all of the questions that we're asking and just trying to get a good feel for what our needs are. How do you utilize your investors? I mean, that you already have established. Do you send them some type of you roll out some type of presentation to them to see whether they would be interested in what we're trying to do, or do you utilize them in that respect at all? And the other question is that is there any government grant money out there for like startup investments like this that you know?
If it's is it a nonprofit, or how is it structured?
I don't think it would be nonprofit. Vanda, you could probably answer it. I don't think it's nonprofit because each one of the structures that we're building would be homes as well as some commercial. So, and those things that are commercial would definitely be for, for profit, but it's in order to sustain the community because it's going to be in the community. So I don't think it would be, nonprofit. Am I wrong by saying that, Vanda? I don't,
Well, you're not wrong by saying it. It is going to be for profit, but we can partner with some nonprofits because Mr. Cooper has a nonprofit that we want to partner with.
Yeah,
so
he's talking about being part of our community. So
Exactly.
he's just like he's like a family in the family.
Yes, but that family can be a nonprofit that can raise funds for the nonprofit.
So they can go after grant money as a nonprofit. Is that right?
Well, you can go after grant money as a for-profit as well.
That's correct. This is Deborah, and I was going to say that the banks would definitely be a place where you will start, whether you're for-profit or nonprofit, because the banks are here to help us service the community and to connect with the families. And I definitely want to give out a plug to Wells Fargo because they just donated over $1 billion to TD Jakes and the the Potter's House,
That's what I
specifically
was talking
for
about.
housing.
After they got
Thank you,
beat
Deborah,
down
for
with all that scam that they had years ago, a couple of years back, but now they want to be
That's
community people now.
yeah. So there's a
buy into
lot of
Wells Fargo
money
too
coming
much.
down the pipeline. I definitely wanted to make sure that I mentioned that because I was just on the call celebrating Black Business Month. And that was definitely one of the key components, getting to know your banker.
So this is RJ, and I want to speak a little bit to that. And she mentioned Potter's House. There's a veterans project for the Potter's House. I don't know if they were related in California, Long Beach specifically. I did create a nonprofit and a for-profit under RJ Cooper Enterprises with the construction management, information technology, transportation, logistics. The traction is going to the point to the for-profit. And it's always being told to me by banks like KB Chase Morgan. I had Wells Fargo and Bank of America. They feel more comfortable. And again, you know, to the point of people are giving money to funding projects, but when it comes to major projects, they are leaning on us to be a for-profit. And yes, I created the nonprofit because there's other grant funding things that kind of tie into it. But in terms of these new constructions that I'm doing, they've always recommended, through SBA as well, we really lean towards the for-profit because they will give to nonprofits because you have to have the same guidelines to receive the funding, but the for-profit obviously is for investors to get a return on investment if that helps.
Because investors want to be paid.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Valeria?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And you know, when I was talking about the project that TD Jakes then were talking about, that's the same thing that Deborah was referencing, and I couldn't think. I had a lot going on in my head, so she hit the nail right on the head as far as that go. And Zandra, what is Zandra still on the line?
I'm here, yes.
Okay. So I guess, did you answer my question as far as the investors being utilized when in the interest of what we're trying to do? Do you get them to come on board or see if they're interested in investing in what we are doing, or are we just, I mean, you know, how are your investors being utilized, in other words?
So our investors, we have a lot of investors. Why we started bringing on capital investors to begin with was because I facilitate it's like a coaching program, and there was lots and lots of investors, especially that are out of the US, basically like in Canada, that were asking to be involved in projects that I was doing. So in order, I mean, it's a win-win because we can utilize the funds to allow us to do more projects, and also they're benefiting from the returns on the projects and the equity increase of the projects. And so they're capital investors, but they're also equity partners on the project. So that investment is backed by the real estate. So on any project we have that we are raising funds on, we hold webinars, we go through the packet like the one that I showed you. And so if, let's say you're asking us to present that to our investor group, we would host, you know, webinars, and we would go through an entire presentation on what it is, and all of that would have to be identified as to how much money you're needing, you know, what the minimum contribution per investor is, what the expected returns are, the overall vision, and everything that is involved in, you know, a presentation like that. So we could definitely talk about doing that and what that would look like. Did that answer your question, Valeria?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I forgot. I'm sorry. I had muted myself.
Oh, no problem. All right.
Do we
Awesome.
have any more questions? We are a little bit past 2.
Well, this was really great. Very informative meeting.
Well,
Yes, it was. Thank you. Thank you both.
no problem. I'm excited. I hope we get to work together on this project and or any other projects in the future. I'm going to put my contact in the chat.
I was about to ask for that.
So this is this email does go to my assistant. This is my direct. And of course, Lorna, please reach out to Lorna. She can schedule any meetings that are needed to be with us. I do not, she's better at coordinating the meetings just because I do stay pretty booked up. But I can also provide my link to my, I'm trying to find it, sorry, to my calendar. Hold on.
So our next step is to basically identify the property and do the letter of intent, and then contact you for the pre-stuff.
The pre-stuff?
Pre-valuation, property
The
valuation,
checklist. The checklist.
start off the
Oh,
check
yes.
and do a 6-month letter of intent.
Yeah, I think it would definitely depend on the lot.
And I know that a couple of people here that are really wanting to get moved. They want their townhouse built ASAP. So that would be definitely the first thing that would go on the property.
Okay. Well, I can talk about it, but there are materials, sustainable materials. I know I mentioned to you before, Vonda, that we are very interested in working with, like the earthen block that are bulletproof, waterproof, high energy efficient. They're made of pure materials, and they're produced here in Texas. And I have a relationship with the company that produces them. And so they're engineered for 1 story. So I don't know what you have in mind. And then we are the distributor for a cold form metal building, which is a very good metal option because of how it's produced. And the longevity is also very good, one of the best. So there's a lot of different things we can look at. I know you wanted to do the printed material. So depending on that, we can talk about those things too. And also, you talked about pre-manufactured, and we do have a distributor that we work with on pre-manufactured homes as well that can be put up in a very quick turnaround time. Are you looking at having all of these individual houses platted individually?
Well, it depends. We want to get acres so that we can have a certain amount, and then we're going to have shared certain amounts. So some of them will be individual and some of them won't.
Okay, so on the front end, you just want some of them on a compound and then some of them platted individually.
Yes.
Okay,
That's why we need at least 20 acres,
gotcha.
preferably.
Okay, so then that's something that we would look at on the development side of it, the pre-development. Okay, I appreciate everybody's time. I do have another meeting that I have to run to, but I'm glad I got to go over everything, and I look forward to talking to you guys more in the future.
You too. Thank you, Zandra. Thank you, Lorna.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, Vanda, that was really good.
Yeah, thank you.
We
Thank-
got a lot of things answered that, that we have been talking about among ourselves. So that shedded a lot of light on those things for me.
So Lorna, I know you're still on here. So send me like your proposal of what, because it's usually a retaining fee. The other company had sent us, they said it's going to be a retaining fee. I think it was 21,000 or something like that. So we just kind of need to know what kind of funds we're talking about. And there are different fundraising platforms out there, guys. So once we get everything that we want to do together, we can put our fundraising on multiple platforms, not just one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, generate as much revenue as possible.
But we're going to need help with doing all those things that she presented, because that's a lot of work, and we're all we're all busy doing other things. So if we want to do this sooner versus later, we're going to end up paying somebody to do it, who's going to dedicate, their time to it. So,
well, it becomes a priority for them if they're getting paid.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So,
Ron, Kimberlyn, you guys have any questions? Deborah, Lee?
Did you share the budget with everyone, or
I
heard
did
the
not.
number?
Well, that was my guesstimate. It's not all written out. I just, in my mind, I'm thinking it's going to be 13 million.
Okay. When you talk about 20 acres, could it really be more than 13 acres?
It could be.
Oh, okay. I don't know how.
It's hard to just find 20. We might find 19. We might find 21. We might find 15.
Well, I mean, is the property, is it valued by acre?
And what's on it? Some cost more because there's a lot of trees on it. Some cost less because there's a lot of trees. It just depends. What road is on? Does it have water? Does it have electricity? Is it next to a river? It's a lot that goes with that.
Okay.
And that,
So
that kind of comes under what the developer does, because they have to assess clearing out the land, or, versus if it was nothing there.
And we really don't want it with nothing there. I mean, because we do want some trees, and I don't want.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, something that you don't have to replant and start from scratch.
Yeah. Even though I know you bring trees in, but that's an expense too that we.
And those trees are very expensive.
So Vanda, this is Ron. When we first talked, you had some areas identified. Are you still looking at those areas to be able to use that as a start for your development project?
Yes, Fort Bend County.
Okay, so when you go and kind of get this help, they're going to build out anything you want, or they're going to build out what they think you need based on how much money can come out of it? So are you kind of in between knowing what you want to not allow them to kind of go crazy with a check that they'll make it happen, because it's they're also going to make sure that it makes money. You said 13 million is the goal. Is that based on that particular property, that county that you're looking at?
And that's built out after. I mean, that's with the pool put in. That's with the tennis court put in. Those are, like 3-5 year whole projects.
Oh man, teasing me with tennis court. I'm already signed up. All right now.
I know. The pool is there for me. The tennis court is there for you.
And so these also will be like phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, or is it going to be just one total project?
No, it's going to be in phases.
Well, what she was saying, that like if you like a lot of the stuff that is put in phase 1 early on, you don't have to double back and go, with the expense of it being in phase 2, phase 3, et cetera, because it was already taken care of up front in phase 1. So, the most that you can incorporate in early on, that you can get that. And that's kind of like something that's already knocked out of the park, and you don't have to be worried about it anymore down the road. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you can look at other things that may need to be constructed that are wanted, like what Lee was talking about, the greenhouse with the help me out, Lee. What am I trying to talk about? The with the filtration system in it and all of that.
Hydroponics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
Is
talking about the hydroponics.
Is Lee still on the call? What?
Yeah, I stepped away.
Oh, okay. I was thinking to say, okay, you don't went radio silent on me.
The tennis court kind of knocked me out. I had to sit back and ponder.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, just those things that are, are like other added attractions.
Yeah, those would probably become late because we want to live there first. We want to, that would be the priorities, to build the living structures there first.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would
And we talked about a grocery store and stuff like that so that we can do our own trading in marketing inside the community.
Mm-hmm. Probably be like a farmer's market.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, we still got a lot of planning to go, but we're making some headways, and we're starting to talk to some of the right people to help us out.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're on the right path.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that presentation, what I came in on, again, apologize for being late. I actually literally lost my wallet. So this is a major flail. I'm making my way to North Carolina, August 19th with no driver's license.
Not again, Ron. What happened?
Yeah, I think I'm doing too much. So I just decided, I think I'm going to go ahead and put in my 2 weeks notice and relocate to South Carolina permanently, and then deal with California secondary. So that'll kind of slow me down. Yeah.
And your wife's gonna slow you down too when you get married. You're gonna have to get off their roads, huh?
That's not in the prenuptial. We didn't talk about it.
He is a mess. But that wasn't the prenuptial.
God didn't ordain that. God did not ordain that. Yeah. No, go ahead.
One question, Zandra wanted to know what your budget was.
We said 13 million.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Ron?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I do like about her presentation. And I came in on a tele, so I think you'll be able to send the recording so I could catch up on the initial part. The fact that she's got investors coming in and out of California, and she did the why Texas. My question would have been, and I know they've assessed California because California has homeless and development going on. It's unbelievable. I want her to be able to compare California to Texas as far as growth, and also add in the Carolinas. Somebody's telling me Raleigh is the fastest growing. North Carolina is the fastest growing in the country right now. But she would know based on they're looking at development and investors across the country. Texas is one of the fastest growing, but I just, with that 13 million, knowing that that's the budget, hopefully we can definitely lay out what exactly you want, like the stores and the aquaponic systems and the tiny houses, so that we can specifically have her to target down, not just spend the 13 million, but look at these costs when she forecasts them and make sure, okay, does that make sense? And we could compare to some construction projects going on in California and the Carolinas as well. If that makes sense.
Yes.
And Ron, I had also messaged you to schedule a meeting with her to talk about those developments too in California, and talking about different phases. Vonda, I know you said specifically Texas and Katy, but I work with some institutional investors, and they also look at phases in terms of, are you looking at Texas? Are you looking at are you just looking at Fort Bend? Are you looking at throughout Texas? Are you looking throughout the different states in Texas? And someone had, was it here or another call? Someone had mentioned doing this co-living in Africa. I know they're having this OKD, they're building other structures. So, I mean, is your overall vision just the Fort Bend, and are you gonna expand it? And that would have more, need more, I mean, for this project one is Fort Bend, the Wakedi, 13 million, but are you gonna expand it throughout Texas? Are you gonna expand it nationally? What's your overall cost? What's your overall vision? And that's for institutional investors, and I work with some of them too.
Well, we hadn't thought about that yet because we're just trying to get our little spot solidified. But like Ron doesn't live in Texas and he's going to be a part of ours. He wants to do his in California or North Carolina. So we can certainly support him and help get something like that done in other states as well.
And
Well,
so
Lorna, when we were talking about when we were selecting Fort Bend, that was just because we had said that we needed to be close to a hospital. And Fort Bend would be the closest to a hospital.
And the other reason we chose that county is because Indigo is being constructed there, and they're similar to what we're going to do, except they're on a larger, they got 300, 500 acres. We're not trying to get that much. But they're going to have some small homes. There's going to be a mixed use community. They're going to have agriculture. They're going to have a farm there. So the county is already lined up and, mentally prepared to do some innovative things with housing.
And what's the Indigo project about?
Oh, it's a multi-use residential community.
I mean, is it similar to the co-living concept?
Not
on bigger
co-living, but
scale.
it's more of an agricultural neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
So ours is an agricultural co-living, co-housing. Theirs is an agricultural neighborhood.
Okay, and Ron, you're gonna tell me something. What was it, Ron?
no, it was just real quick, and I'm actually trying to run around to get my replacement driver's license. I picked Houston because knowing you were there, but literally, we've got a shipblack.com in our logistics company. Tiffany Townsend is in Houston. So I'm seeing over the last 2 years, people are moving towards Houston. And so it's a great place that we're looking at outside of California, North Carolina, South Carolina, and even Alabama. So this project that we're looking to do is something that I could support 100%, even though not living there. We are started our fulfillment center there, and we're going to take that fulfillment center to California and into Africa, specifically Nigeria and Ghana. So this is really a fun place to start, and a group of people that are really being proactive and intentional on it. So Houston is the place, but at the same time, we're working with California and North Carolina, another Black community called Soul City. California is called Sun Village. So these are populations and communities that can be developed using the same model that we're using right here in Houston. So that's why it's got my 100% attention to be able to support and work together with and be a part of.
Okay. Yes, and I'll be happy to get on a call with you and Zandra as well. And then I guess, when do you want to have a next follow-up meeting with Zandra? I could also email you the both presentations too, and then you could forward it to everyone on the call too.
She put something here in the chat.
Yes, it was one of the presentations, but not all of them. We had two, one
Yeah.
specifically for this and then the general one, but I could send you both, email you both of them.
If you send me both of those, I can attach it to the recording for this link that I'm going to send to everybody.
Okay, I'll work on that now.
And then we'll get back with you on when we want to reconvene, because we still have some things to work out amongst ourselves. So we'll have a better picture of it in a couple of weeks. And then Ron is going on vacation, getting married. So let's say maybe the mid-September we'll be ready.
Well, congratulations, Ron.
Well, thank you. It's a miracle, and I say the least, because I didn't see it coming, but I invested 3 years in making sure it's gonna happen.
Was it someone you knew already, or?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've been knowing her. She's a retired special education teacher, doctor and PhD, and lives in the community that I grew up in, but she's from South Carolina. And literally speaking, we're all in the health and wellness. So we've a lot of synergies, and it just feels right. So go ahead and jump over that broomstick August 19th. And then on the first week of September, it's back to business. So I'm definitely 100% on board, and she's going to be supportive as well. So make sure she comes on the next opportunity to meet with you, and she's going to let it do what it does. So looking forward to all of these development programs. This has been my dream on behalf of my mom, was to be able to get with a group of people who understand how to develop and how to give back to the community. And now it gives me an opportunity, all the lessons I've learned and the people I've met, to bring us all together to get that successful outcome. So looking forward to it.
Coming full circle for you, huh, Ron?
Absolutely. This is our time for everybody in this room. That young lady that gave that presentation, everything she spoke about is what I learned through my project management certification through Turner Construction. So, I mean, while we vet other people, I believe she's got right now at this point, she's the person to beat. And I don't know whoever else is doing presentations who have done that. But as we talk about it, I can explain why I really like what she said. And then we could compare with anyone else that comes in with something similar to and equal to. It's just a matter of if we can afford to move forward with what they're charging for their services. But everything she spoke about has got me excited. And I was going to ask her how small a project, if she could take over the project that we're doing in California. That's in the next meeting. They'll let you guys know how it's going, because we started that project in 2017. And it should have been completed, but we're looking for another company to take it over. So I'll keep you guys posted on that as well.
And you'll be ahead of us because you already have the land. So
yes, no, that's okay. I mean, I was blessed, I inherited, but you have a vision, and your vision is strong, and I can see it, which is why I'm ready to put down my $5 or down payment on it to get in there with you guys once I sell some blood and get finished with the marriage. We're good.
I got 5 on it.
You got to find your wallet. You got to find your wallet first. So
hey, I'm sitting in a credit union. They finna give me $100 cash to get started. So I'm gonna set aside that $5 and cash out somebody. Dana, maybe that's you.
Lorna, do you work with Zandra?
Yes, I'm the business development manager for her companies. Yes, I work with
Okay,
her.
so that link that she put in the chat, she said that will reach you?
No, that's a link to the one of the presentations she did today, but I'm going to email Vanda both. She was looking at, we had 2 presentations she was reading from. So I will send Vanda both of them so she could email it to the group.
No, she put it here, info at Born Again.
No, I'm not info. Let me put my email there.
Yeah, put her email, Xander at Born Again Properties Inc. Corporation, and then she put info at bornagainproperties.com.
yeah, those are just email addresses.
Right, that's what I'm saying. She put her information, but when she was saying that that whatever we send through those, I would go to Lorna.
I don't have access to the info, and I don't have access to the Zandra, but I have access to the Lorna at bornagainproperties.com.
Okay.
So you're gonna put yours in here. Okay.
Yes.
And Ron,
That's-
we did have another company come and talk to us a few weeks ago, and I can send you the recording on that. They were called Iron Build Design. They're local here in Houston as well.
Was I on that call?
I don't think you were. So
You
I
gonna
need,
send it to, you sending that to Ron?
I can send it to you as well.
Okay, yes, because I've already created a file for co-housing where all of my stuff goes in there, and I'm just separating everything you send me and putting it in there over there
Okay.
in that folder. Yeah.
I'll write myself a note so I remember, because once I get off this call, who knows what'll happen.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Got anything else? So we can.
Let me see. I'm screenshotting this info for Lorna. Okay. All right. That sounds good. Okay. Let me see. No, I don't really have anything that's pertaining to this. Everybody that's on this call, I mean, we have their address, their email address from the email invitation for the Zoom call. That was like 24 people on that email.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's only a couple of people that I wanted to reach out to.
Okay.
And I guess off the on a side note, we can talk later. We can talk later. It has nothing to do with the co-housing group.
Okay. Well, I'll stop the recording.
Okay.